talk about authenticity. You know, it's everything for this series. Talk about production-wise, how you structured that, how you got that feel, that gritty kind of real feel.
Yeah, so I think probably a big part of that is because almost everyone in the film is a stand-up. Myself and Kevin Iso, who wrote, directed, and starred in it, we're both stand-ups. Everyone we cast is a stand-up.
This is my favorite time of the year. I'm glad that it's getting cold, cause I ain't really like the summer at all. That's not the joke, but all right. It's not that I didn't like the weather. The weather was fine, but in the summertime, it's just too many people wearing sandals, and everybody don't got the feet for sandals. You know what I mean? It's way too many people with regular lives and homeless feet walking around, and I ain't like it. I hate feet. For me, feet are like the first and last piece of bread. Like, I know they're there for a reason, but I'm never gonna put them in my mouth. You dig?
I can't start a conversation. That's my problem. I don't know how to open the topic. When I start a conversation, I feel like you know when you have a ketchup bottle and you turn it upside down to get the ketchup out. Before you do, you get this like watery kind of tomato juice. Like would that be at the start of a conversation? Before you get anything of value, it's just gonna be a few minutes when I'm spitting out nonsense and watery juice. Before I can give you any ketchup, and I'm jealous of ketchup bottles because they're transparent. So you sit through the water stuff because you know ketchup is on the way. But me, it's like, nice to meet you. I'm like, fun. And you think there's nothing left in me, but there is. It just takes a few months. No one wants to wait that long for ketchup. That's my point.
We felt comfortable with the actors we were working with and with the script itself that we'd been working on for a while and really wanted to make it feel conversational and organic. And we really made strides in the edits of the script also, even before shooting, to really just bring people right into the action and not waste the audience's time. That's something you learn in stand-up, is how to not waste the audience's time. So I think that helped with it. And then also in the performances to really give the comics we were working with time to really settle into the material and make it better. I think all that helped make it more organic, authentic, hopefully real. Yeah.
Nice. And you work with some known comics, and then there's some actors that you hired that aren't really actors. Right. So talk about how you worked with each of those, how much differently you approached each of those scenarios.
Yeah, so each, every adult in it is a comic, some more known than others, but they're all stand-up. So they know their voice to some extent. Tim Green, who plays my stepdad, who's a terrific stand-up, is very self-assured with who he is, to put it lightly. Drew Dowdy, who's a great comic, he plays the drug dealer. Napoleon Emile. Jeffrey Joseph, who's the principal, who's great. So working with them, we could kind of trust them with the material once they settled into it. Now the kids that we were working with, especially Katora Wright, who plays Zaina in it, she's not an actress at all. I mean, you know, and she's not a comic, so this was her first thing that she was performing in. So the first day, we shot with her for 2 days. The first day we really wanted to make her feel comfortable. We were a little self-conscious because we had it's the climax, this big dramatic scene where there's a lot of action, potential death going on. And we're shooting it with her. This was the first day we'd met her, and her mom and brother like right around the corner in the other room, her little brother. So we were just trying to reassure them in between takes and have, you know, run over and be like, she's doing great. Like, she's, you know, just make sure. And then, but the second day we were shooting was in the classroom with her, and her around other kids, one of whom was a good friend of hers. That made her, I think, more comfortable, and all the kids more comfortable because they were within their age group and they were in a context that they were familiar with. So in that scene with the kids, we were just kind of letting them talk just to settle in before we shot it. And Nadia Bedzanova, who's our cinematographer, who's wonderful, she picked up a lot of that B-roll of just the kids talking. And it was so good and felt so natural and real, like they're talking about, like, oh, I'd sleep with her mom. Like, I don't even know what they're saying. Like, it's so funny and genuine that we ended up using that. So we were just letting them go. I'm not even sure how aware they were that they were being filmed at that moment, so it felt really fun to be able to use that there. Yeah.
I mean, it's really spectacular. We've never had numbers this low before. Every single one of your students failed. What were you doing?
We were bonding. They showed that they got the material before we took the test.
Really?
Yeah.
Because, you know, these tests are very important.
No, I know.
Let me just quote. 21x minus 3 equals the 1968 Civil Rights Act.
Yeah. We didn't have time to get to math yet.
Right. But you've done math, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll get this right away.
Yes.
Right. 33G minus 7 equals Coretta Scott King's bust size.
They must have looked that one up on their own. We didn't cover that.
It's actually correct.
Well, that's something.
Talking about one of my favorite scenes, the principal scene. There's an element of humor that layers with this kind of serious tone of where, you know, the action is. And talk about that and how important that was for you guys in terms of making this. Was that the catalyst for trying to get this going, or was it more of showing the world as it is?
I mean, we're comics, so we wanted to make something funny, but also we wanted to try to show a world that we felt like hadn't been shown. I think a lot of shows, the characters themselves, even if they're interesting, they live in a very insular world. They go to the diner, they go to the coffee shop, and they just kind of sit there because that's all they have no reason to go anywhere, and that gets boring. So putting me as a teacher, him delivering food, it forces us out of our heads, especially people like dealing with mental health issues also, and bring us out into that environment and giving it this sort of grounded unpredictability. People show different aspects of New York, but the truth of it is that they all exist and they all overlap as well. Like everyone's constantly, they have to coexist while doing their own thing. So we wanted to show all that, and then the jokes kind of came within that. Like we knew we could make it funny just because that's what we do. We didn't want to force feed jokes. We wanted them to come through the characters and the world. Yeah.
Nice. So how much of this series have you guys produced already? How much more are you going for, and where is it going from here?
So the first episode is what's screened at Slamdance here. So the second episode is online now as well. If you go to FLATBUSHMISDEMEANORS.com, you can see both episodes so far. The second one has some of the same cast, me, Kevin, Kareem Green is back as my stepdad, and then we have Aparna Nancherla, who's wonderful, Yamanika Saunders, who's one of the funniest comics. She's so great.
Very good in that episode.
She's great. Carrie Coddett, who's awesome. So we got some really, really great comics as well in that one. And we're starting to film the third episode now. So our plan was to make 3 on our own for no budget, and then hopefully we can secure funding, because long term we do want to make it a narrative half-hour series. That's the goal. We know where a season would go and have all that outlined. So that's the next step, is just trying to reach more people.
Nice. And how important is that to have as somebody who's just starting and trying to make this work, and then trying to get it out to other people and have other people fund it? Do you feel like you had to do that right up from the get-go, is make sure you had a whole season outlined, or was it just concentrating on the pilot and then working your way through that?
I think they're both important, because people will look for any excuse to not do something. Right. So if you just have, here's a thing outlined, people hate reading. That's what I've found. Nobody wants to read anything. You could write a whole script, and no one likes to read words, I think. Hopefully I'm wrong. But so by making it, it was just like, to people who were like, I'm not sure I could see it, like, oh, this is what it is. So this is the world, this is the tone, the pacing, everything.
Well, the universe is everything, and if it's expanding, someday it will break apart, and that will be the end of everything.
What has the universe got to do with it? You're here in Brooklyn. Brooklyn is not expanding.
So having that as a calling card, I think, is always super important. And then if you want to go beyond that, I do think it's important to have a thing outlined, because to show, like, yeah, we know where this would go. Right. If you trust us to go beyond that, we do have an end game. We're not just going to, like, I don't know, maybe there's a twin.
How much money do you have, right?
Right. I don't know. So I just having all those materials ready, and we've done all this on our own. So to show, like, this is what we could do with no resources. If you give us resources, it would be better. Right. And we're happy with what we've done so far. Excited to keep going.
And you have a co-collaborator who co is everything, basically, directing, writing, producing. Yeah. Talk about that relationship and how you make that work, because that can be tricky at times, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's very, I mean, yeah, anyone who's collaborated with somebody in any setting, creative or professional, anything, it's tough. But, so Kevin Iso, who's also one of the funniest stand-ups as well, and yeah, just one of my favorite people, is great. And he, you know, is as responsible with all of this. He edits it as well. We go back and forth with the editing, but he really takes the lead on that. And so, you know, I think we have very similar sensibilities, I think, which is important when you're collaborating, but also we're not the same. So we complement each other, I think. Like, I bring ideas or push back on stuff that he wouldn't think of, and he does the same for me. And I think us finding that middle ground is what led it to this cool spot. And so I think that's definitely important when collaborating with somebody. There's going to be a lot of trial and error, always. And there's going to be a lot of relationships that become fractured or have highs and lows, and I think being able to talk out what the issues are, which we've had to do. We've always had to have some, like, just airing conversations. When you work with somebody closely, that's going to happen. But if it works, it works. Yeah. So, yeah, it's exciting, and Kevin's great, and, yeah, he's huge.
What do you like about being an indie? You know, you're technically not a filmmaker, but you really do put something on a screen. So. Yeah. What do you like about that process and being independent?
Yeah, I love making stuff. I've always wanted to be just a stand-up comedian who makes things. So that's the goal, and that's the hope. And the hope is to continue to do that for a bigger audience. So I like doing that because I've worked in like, I did an animated pilot for Fox. So doing that for a network, you go through all these steps and loops, and you work over and over. But then ultimately, if it doesn't go to series, no one gets to see it. So, and you have no control over that. So something about doing independently, it's like, okay, well, even if 20 people see this, that's something. I'm making something and I'm putting it out there, and it's going to reach people who maybe wouldn't know me otherwise. And that's a cool feeling. And to not have any restrictions or notes or anything of just like, we're going to go with our gut and see if it has resonance. So that's a great feeling, and really exciting to be able to figure out how to do that for scraps, like how to piece all that together. The producing aspect, which is the most exhausting aspect of it, is so fun and so exciting once you see, like, oh, we could see this through. We could do another one, and we could do a third. So it's like that's adrenaline, and that's super exciting. Yeah.